Okay, welcome. I'm Dick Wagner with the Crest Network, and we have an unusual topic this morning. It is don't send bad emails. Another way to say it is send good emails. Don't send crap. Don't send spam. So I'm going to go ahead and mute somebody by the name of Tam, T-A-M. And so we're going to talk about a dozen or 10 different things that you can do so you don't send bad emails. So the big question is, what's a bad email? I've read a lot of information about sending out emails. I have a constant contact account, and they're constantly sending tidbits and information. I did my own research also from the social media experts to try and understand what's a bad email, or better yet, what's a really, really good email that will get the people to open them. And gonna go ahead and mute JTT. There we go. So one of the things right out of the gate here is so many people send out emails, and I've been guilty of this. They lack personalization. If I'm sending an email to several people and I send it as a standard spam style email where everybody gets the same thing, then it's lack of personalization. Ideally, when you're sending an email right out of the gate, you should know some of the struggles and pains and issues that they're going through. You ought to also know the prospect's industry and make reference to that. You should know details about your prospect. For example, dear Joe, sure hope your vacation was great. I wanted to let you know about, and then you go on with the rest of your story. It requires to send out emails, and this is really, I'm not talking about marketers who are doing a monthly or weekly newsletter. I'm talking about where the group of people is much smaller, or at a minimum, if your newsletter, for example, my constant contact account has, I believe, 9 different categories. So I can send out to just one category, or 2 or 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever. And so I can make it, even on a newsletter, a little more personal if I choose. It's not a one-on-one where I'm sending it to just one person, but at least I'm sending it to, for example, if I'm sending the email out to independent restoration contractors, I know some of their pains and issues, and I can comment on those either in the form of an article or by adding an article to a clickable link. But it does require homework. It requires research. It requires gathering intel about your client and about their industry so that you can talk intelligently about it. Many people have a very poor writing style. I'm not going to address the writing style as it relates to your region or your education. I just simply want to say that you do not want to make it look like a template where you're just filling in the blanks. You always, even in a newsletter that you're sending out, don't make it look like a template. Make it look much more personal. And always in your writing, make sure that you address their pain points. And then on top of that, offer them a solution to their issues. One of the things that I've tried to do, and when you do this, you can be sloppy, but if you write it as if you are having a conversation with them on the phone or in person, it comes across different. It comes across better. It might not look grammatically correct, but if you write it like you're having a conversation, it will be much more meaningful to them. I absolutely get so frustrated, and I've made these mistakes in a hurry, but don't use or send an email with misspelled words. To an awful lot of people, that hurts your credibility really bad. Poor punctuation is confusing and it's negative, and it implies something negative. It might imply that you're simply not conscientious. And then I see this, I'm going to say almost all the emails that I receive, they're using the wrong version of a word. Those of us that are older, we spent a lot of time in school in our primary years, elementary years, learning the differences between the three theirs. And they're spelled differently, they look differently, and they have different meanings. You, your, our, and our. I see this an awful lot, especially on Facebook. It just, when I see that, it hurts that person's credibility. Look up and learn what effect and effect and effect are, how they're used. Look up the word insure versus ensure. I highlighted in blue the two at the bottom because there's no such word. There is no such word as supposedly, and there is no such word as irregardless. Simply, and I can't stress it enough, those two, they simply don't exist in the English language. Regardless is the proper term, and supposedly, with a D on it, not a B, is correct. So enough for the spelling and grammar and so forth, but please always check for your spelling before and your punctuation before you send it out. One of the things that I have on my computer is an app called Grammarly, and it highlights for you in red those things that you misspelled or have bad grammar and punctuation. And Grammarly is free, and it's an app that you can put on your computer or your laptop for typing, and it solves a whole bunch of issues. As you all know, Microsoft Word has an editor on it. And if you have the latest version of Microsoft Word, you can check when you're writing something, you can click on editor and it will tell you all kinds of information, word by word by word, so you can make those corrections before you save it or send it. One of the mistakes that I used to do years ago was I was always trying to sell. My entire career has been sales and marketing. And so I was always trying to sell. In reality, I've learned, especially like in the last 10 or so years, that I need to stop trying to sell and I need to spend more time positioning. Because when you position your thought or what you want to talk about, your positioning actually makes the idea that you're conveying, it makes it worth considering. Nobody, and I mean nobody, wants a sales pitch. I mean, you don't like it, I don't like it. We don't want that crap on the phone. We don't want it in an email. If it comes in an email, we delete it. And so spend your time, quit selling and more positioning your idea. One of the things that when you're sending somebody something and they don't know you at all, or they don't know you very well, is find a way to name drop a mutual person that they know and you know. Because if, for example, I got an email and it said, "Dear Dick, I was looking forward to talking with you. Candy or Ginny told me to reach out to you," I'm going to give that far more credibility because I know those people. And I know that if they said to call, well, I probably should take a minute and talk to that person. It just happened the other day. One of my clients name was mentioned in an email. I did not know this person, but when he sent the email, he referenced my client, said, "I've been talking to him and he said, you're a good guy and maybe you could help me." So I gave great credibility to that. If it had not had the client's name in it, I would have hit the delete button. I would have gotten rid of it. Somebody that has familiarity with you doesn't require the same level of social proof. Every one of the marketers that I work with, I have hounded them to be on Facebook, be on LinkedIn, be on Twitter and Instagram, and engage people in those mediums, that it means something to them. I have 16 or 1700 Facebook friends, and yes, it's certainly accurate that I can't possibly know personally everything about all 1700, but I see their information in my news feed and it gives me clues and ideas. And I might comment with a heart or a thumbs up or something on something that they post. That alone is meaningful. When I post something and somebody clicks the thumbs up or the heart, I know they've seen it, I know they've read it, and that's meaningful to me. LinkedIn, which I'll reiterate, LinkedIn is your personal resume online. Everybody that puts an information blog section on LinkedIn about their company is doing it incorrectly. You create the account on LinkedIn for yourself and you put information in there about yourself, and then you can create a company page, which you can put different information on and link that company page to your personal resume. That's the way it's supposed to be done. We send out tweets Monday through Saturday, and you will be surprised at how many shares and how many retweets or how many likes or hearts you get on that. So people are reading them. So again, that was long-winded, so let's not be long-winded. It's been said, and I actually did a webinar on this a couple of years ago about the concept of brevity. Brevity is your friend, short and sweet, just the facts, ma'am. The better you are at being clear and precise, the better your brevity, and the more people will listen to you, because he who doesn't say a lot, usually the people will listen closer because they're not just running their mouth. I have a marketer who I'm not going to name names, but I can tell you that this person talks and talks and talks and talks and talks, and they talk fast. And one of the things that I've experienced and learned is that when you talk a lot, and you especially are talking fast, I don't mean talk fast like those people in New Jersey. I mean talk fast like just rapid fire lickety split. You're more nervous, you're less confident, and when you convey that, it doesn't give you power, it doesn't give you position. Another thing that you should not do, and the only time I would do this is with my little grandchildren, but they're not your buddies or your pal. It drives me up a wall when I meet somebody for the first time and he says, "Hey, come on in, buddy." No, I'm not your buddy. I'm not your pal. Figure out, learn what their first name is, and then say it. Don't say hi without adding their first name. Don't call them friend, because they might not think of you as a friend and don't want to be your friend. Just, it could be simply an acquaintance. One of the things that I remind marketers a lot is, as a marketer calling on agents or calling on plumbers, you're not trying to make friends. It isn't about making friends. When you call on an insurance agent, that insurance agent isn't going to work in the morning saying, "Geez, I sure hope some marketers come in today so I can make some new friends." That's not what they're thinking. So, oops, there we go. So, another thing that you should do is, when it's in an email, always send them a clickable link to your social world. If you have a Facebook page, send them a clickable link, and even say, "Sure hope you join me here on Facebook," or you know, click on my profile, or my on my profile on LinkedIn. Always, when you're adding or including something in the email, like a clickable link, don't just say, "Go to my website." Actually put the website link in the email. Make it easy for them. People are lazy. And since people are lazy, they're simply not going to go and type out some big long website address. But when you have the clickable link, they will most likely click on it. Many people ask for too much and they ask for it too soon. On your website, for example, it's appropriate to have a call to action, such as download this ebook. But don't ask for their name, address, phone number, company name, street address, name of their firstborn child, how many grandchildren they have. Don't ask for all of that information. Just get the bare minimum, because that's all you need. The same thing when you're sending an email asking them for certain information. I sent an email out yesterday to somebody who wants to talk to me, and I said, all I need is your phone number. And guess what? He sent me back an email, and all it had on it was his phone number. No, geez, Dick, I sure hope you'll call me. Looking forward to this, whatever. All he did was he gave me 10 digits of a phone number. So ask for only what you need. Do it in incremental steps. Think about what you'd be willing to do, what you'd be willing to fill out, what you'd be willing to enter, and only ask for those things. Simply put yourself in their shoes. The goal on an email, especially an email where they don't know you or they don't know you very well, is your goal should be to simply try and get any reasonable response. When you get any reasonable response, they've read it, they've connected with you, you've had a legitimate touch. Small requests can achieve a lot. A simple request of, would you mind sending me your cell phone number? Or can you tell me what the month and the day are of your birthday? So you can put that into Dash. Those little requests can go a long ways toward building a relationship. And then this whole next section requires a bit of close paying attention. But when you flag an email as urgent and it's not urgent, you've been misleading them. It's false. You're trying to bait them in, and you should not do that. Don't ever be misleading or false. You know, like the word free. Nobody believes that. So be careful not to use it. What you should be saying in the subject line should be something that captures their interest, something that they are very likely interested in. For example, if I was going to send an email out and it was going to be a blanket email, like to 1,000 people, and I had really good information about how to interview or how to hire or how to retain employees, that's a big deal. An awful lot of businessmen and women really want to know how to retain employees or how to hire employees or where to advertise or what to look for. And so that kind of information would go in my subject line, because I would capture a lot of attention and interest, their interest that way. And it ought to be accurate. If you have good information about something, Say you have good information and then mean it. Back it up or prove it. 33% of email recipients decide whether or not to open the email based simply on the subject line. So please, if you want a far better opening response to your emails, work on more than the content, work on the subject lines or subject line, because that's the most important. The first line of the body of an email. And I clipped some examples here so that you can see, but for example, I received an email here from a roofing contractor. And it's very clear. It's not something I'm going to delete because it's a registration confirmation. And in the subject or in the next sentence, the first sentence, 3 ways to nail success in sales and marketing and production. All of that information shows up on both the subject line and the first line of the body of the text. Shows up on your email, you know, on your laptop or on your desktop or iPad. Most people don't realize that part of the first line of the body text can actually be seen in the initial email. And you only have 6 to 12 words in that area to motivate them to read it. So please make it very powerful. One more group of examples. Here, this one, I sent this webinar information to me, just like I sent it to all of you. But it's an e-learning webinar just for you. That was the subject line. And then learn how not to send bad emails. That was in the first line of the body text. And all of that shows up on in my email account. So I can look at that and immediately know exactly what it is. Risa sent me a reminder about Christmas gifts for foster children. So in her content, it gives the actual address, but I knew not to delete that because she always has the right information in the body text. And I knew that it was about getting Christmas gifts for foster kids. Scott Friedson, many of you know Scott. Scott is a public adjuster. He's in Texas. And in his subject line, he says, here's 7 ways commercial building owners maximize insurance claims. And that's his subject line. And I saved it because I want to read it. Another one, insurance claim driving you insane. That was the subject line. And then the first line of his body text is get the maximum settlement you deserve. So those are the kinds of things that you gain when you have the right powerful subject line and when you have the right initial content. Save the dear Joe, dear Sam, dear Billy. Dear somebody doesn't matter. It's not necessary. Your first line should always be following up on the subject line, and it ought to get their attention. If you want to put Dear Joe after that first initial subject line or body text line, go ahead, but it's not necessary. A man by the name of Clint Rogers, I ask him for his phone number. He sends me his phone number. Let's talk about just a few more mistakes. My wife works for a company that has, I believe, 10,000 employees. When somebody sends out an email, many times they're sending it out to hundreds or sometimes thousands of employees. And if you want to respond, you do not respond by clicking reply all, because all 10,000 or 1,000 or whatever are going to see that same response. So you have to be very careful. And don't use the carbon copy, the CC, unless it's actually truly appropriate. If someone should be included in that email that matters, go ahead and put their name in the carbon copy section. And please use one font style. Don't change and use a bunch of different fonts, thinking that you are drawing attention to a particular thing in the email. So please only use one font. A few more mistakes. Don't use the emails to hide. When a phone call is best, always make the phone call. If you're using the email so you don't have to talk to them, that's not good. And please, in an email, don't write foul and profane language. It's offensive to many people, and it might come back to haunt you. And just a simple rule I've been frustrated or emotional many times when I sat down and I banged out an email, but I let it set in the draft section until the next day. And then I'd open it and go back and reread it, and almost always rewrite it. And if it wasn't time sensitive, I might even let it sit there again and let my anger or my frustration or whatever settle down even more. You will be surprised at how your tone softens and changes with waiting a day or waiting a few hours or whatever. And a few more mistakes that people make, and this is extremely annoying. Don't let the email sit without some acknowledgement, without some reply. I went Friday, we went to Disney World. Yes, I live in Florida. And while I was in the car riding up there, I got an email from somebody that wanted to talk with me, but I couldn't really talk to them with a car full of kids, a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old that you know how 2-year-olds are. So my response was, I'm on vacation for a couple days. I will call you Monday. But I replied promptly. I replied quickly so that he didn't wonder for 2 or 3 or 4 days whether his email went through. I responded quickly so he knew that he could put it out of his head and expect a call from me on the first of the week. And please always say thank you. It's so easy to type, and it means so much in a subtle way when you say thank you. Every email response that you send should be demonstrating respect. and politeness and appreciation. And if you're sending a confidential email, don't send it to the wrong person. It's almost, it should be totally unnecessary for the bottom of your email to have a disclaimer that says, if you receive this email in error and it does not apply to you and it was confidential to go to somebody else, please delete and destroy this email. That should never be necessary, because when you're sending a confidential email, you should write the confidential email first and then carefully select the person that it goes to. Can you imagine? And this happened to me a few years ago. I received a confidential email from someone who was announcing that so-and-so was going to be terminated on Friday. The bad part about it is that every employee knew that this person was going to be terminated. The person who was going to be terminated didn't know, but everybody else did. So don't do those kinds of sending confidential emails to the wrong person. And one last word about words. When you use words like love or party or amazing, people automatically translate that as that you are an extrovert. You are engaged in extroversion and not introversion. And then when words are used like, I'm sick of this, or I hate this, or I'm not going to go there anymore, they're often correlated with neuroticism. And you do not want to have someone correlate you or think of you as neurotic. So consider the words you use and consider those that you put in writing and in emails. If you want a copy of this, send me an email and I will, or send me a copy, or send me a request of the email that I sent you so that you were on this webinar. But aside from that, and I'll send you a link to YouTube for it. So I'm Dick Wagner. I want to thank you very much for watching. Some Tuesdays we have 25 people on it. Some people we have 6 or 7. So thank you all for being on it. We'll talk to you next time.